Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear my Olivia. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Let me blow the candle out for you for safety reasons. Olivia, Queen Olivia, is now 17.2, which makes her 104 today, the 1st of March 2020. I forgot you were deaf, sorry darling. Right behind you. That's my girl. I had a fright last Friday. I didn't think she was going to make it to 104. As you might be able to tell, she's got this developing facial tumor to her left side. But she's soldiering on and she's eating, and like a good Italian mama, or half Italian mama, I've made myself a good pasta and some vino, which is actually beetroot juice but looks like vino, and I've got lollies like a good nonna would have. Lollies for the birthday girl. Here you go, sweetie. Would you like a lolly? Would you like a lolly for your birthday? Here we go. Want a lolly? Want a lolly? That's my girl. No, you're full? You want to save it for later? Okay, you can save it for later. We'll eat it later. So, Queen Olivia, here we go. Queen Olivia came into the family from over the fence. So I had found Oliver down at the shopping centre, 3 months old, little black and white fluff ball, wandering around the car park. Well, he's actually off the car park. He was around where La Poqueta used to be, the far side of the shopping centre. You'd call that the east side of the shopping centre. And I watched this little boy running around all excited with his big red collar on. And then he went to near La Poqueta and these big burly guys came out and nearly stepped on him, and I thought, no, you're not streetwise, little boy. I'm going to have to find your home. So I picked him up and took him home. I was living at Crockett Avenue at that stage, and took him home. Long story short, when somebody was happy to take him and said her dogs would like him, I said, no. So Oliver became the clinic kitten, and no sooner than that did little Miss Muffet, who was found at a factory in Camberfield. So my neighbour behind me, Frank, who I refer to as Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank worked in Camberfield in a factory with automated doors and things, gates, and he brought her home, same age as Oliver, about 3-4 months at the time, for his daughter. Pretty little cat for the daughter. Dog didn't want the cat. And Olivia would always come and visit. So it was a couple of months of her visiting. And it was really funny. The first time we spotted her on the fence. So Oliver and I was out the backyard, and she was up on the fence. Little meow, 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 little tail waggling like she had worms or something. And Oliver looked at her, and looked at me, and looked at her. They were saying, what's that up on the fence? The next day, I'm pretty sure it was the next day, it wasn't long after that, we're out again, and Oliver's gone, I have to go check this out, and he crept up the backyard like a jungle lion, and she came up off the fence right into his face and went, meow! And he jumped back, and he was like, man, what's this? On the third meeting, he ran to her, and that's when I knew it was time for him to be neutered, because I wasn't having kittens in my backyard. Olivia, on the other hand, didn't mind that he was neutered, and they became really good buddies. She trained him in a lot of streetwise stuff. So he could climb a tree, but he couldn't climb down the tree. And there was a prickly type of tree he used to love to climb, probably because the branches were close together, and then meow at me, and I'd have to go and get him and put him out of the tree. The number of times I did that. And then she taught him how to climb on the shed roof, and how to climb trees, and they were really good buddies. And I thought, well, if she has kittens, she's not having my kittens, not Oliver's kittens. And Uncle Frank used to bring Oliver back. Oliver would be on her side of the fence, and he'd bring Oliver back, and Oliver would hand me over Oliver, saying, it's not good, it's dangerous. I'm thinking, well, it's dangerous for Olivia. And she wasn't named Olivia at that stage. I don't know what I called her initially when she wasn't living with us, but eventually So this was 2004, because I knew at the end of the year I was buying a house, which is this house, which I didn't know was this house at that time, but I was going to buy a house. And so they were inseparable. She lived outside and he was inside, but she'd be upset every time he came in, and I was feeding her. She'd eat anything, spaghetti, anything, any leftovers I had, she'd eat. And then one day I decided that I couldn't separate them. She would have to be incorporated into the family. So I rang Uncle Frank and I said, Frank, I'll take your cat if you spay her. And Frank said, I'll just take her back to the factory. And I've gone, no, you won't. So I said, can I have your cat? He said yes. So fine, I'll spay her. So I took her home. It was probably about May by then. I think they were 5, maybe March, April, May. She was about 5 months anyway when she was spayed. So 1st of November is what the vet estimated. November, December, January, must be March. And then once she was spayed, she came into the house. But Oliver had the reign of my bed, and she had to be out in the other parts of the house. And there was a door beyond my bedroom door, like the corridor door, that I would shut off, and she would be on that side and Oliver and I would be on my side. And Oliver would come to bed with me, but in the middle of the night he would get up and play footsies under the door with Olivia. And then I knew I had to let her onto the bed. She was part of the family. I started to call her Olive to start with, and the reason I was thinking Olive is because of Oliver. And then if I went out and I called Ollie, nobody would know I had 2 cats, especially the landlord. I called her Ollie, or I would call them Ollie, come in for dinner, Ollie, and they'd both come. And I started to call her Olive, but every time I went to call Olive, Olivia would come out of my mouth. So she became Olivia. And then they got their titles. So Oliver was the clinic kitten, Oliver Oscar, because I was originally going to call Oliver Oscar and then kept calling him Oliver. So I decided he was Oliver Oscar. He was the clinic kitten, but at some point he became King Oliver Oscar, and I was the queen. So she was the princess, Princess Olivia. And then as it turned out, we moved at the end of 2004, December, Christmas Eve. Oliver, Olivia and I moved into this house so we could wake up in our house on Christmas Day, 2004, and then the clinic moved after that, so it started by the 5th of January 2005. And so on life went. So she was the princess, he was the king, and I was the queen. And they had a very, I was going to say tumultuous relation. They loved each other. They would curl up together. But when they got into a fight, there was screaming and fur and everything. But the funny thing about the fight is that they would get into an upside down position, right? Their heads were here. Oliver's trying to bite her neck and she's underneath screaming and cussing, right? But the funny thing is, he never worked out, for the 10 years he was alive, he never worked out that she had the power of the legs and she'd be kicking him in the head, because she's of course down this way. And he would lose the fight because she would kick the shit out of his head in that position. She's a good mouser. She brought mice to Oliver. Oliver was no good with mice. He'd let them go and he'd then give up on them. He spent 45 minutes one day in my pantry cupboard. 45 minutes. I was very patient. I don't like mice. I was very patient. He finally got the mouse. He brought it out here to the waiting room and then he let it go. And it ran into the laundry. And he went, oh well, I've gone, no, it's in the laundry. So you've got to go get it. And he was like, no, I had enough of that. I tried getting her onto it, but she was like, what mouse? So we lost that one into the laundry. But she learned quickly not to give him a mouse because he would lose track of it. There was one night, he was sleeping on my chest. He was sleeping on my chest, fast asleep. And this little one, she got this beautiful meow that goes, meow, meow, which I take to mean, where are you? So she often does that, even still now. Although the last few days she's not meowing as much, she's just waiting patiently for me to see her at the door. But we're upstairs in bed. She was asleep, I wasn't. I could hear her downstairs going, meow, meow. It's a funny meow. we didn't come down, so she came up. And once she got closer, Oliver woke up and went running over to her. And I could hear him, scratching the carpet. He was playing with something. So I peered over the edge of the bed and he was playing with a mouse. And I suspect she killed it first to give it to him. I went under the doona. I said, you deal with that. I don't want to know anything about any mice. Within a week, she caught another one. She only had to say "para" once, and he was off my chest and over to her. She brought him this mouse, which was very nice of her because she knew that he only wanted to play, and he could only play if they were dead, because if they were alive, they'd run away. So there were some eventful stories, but we lost our Oliver. He had a heart murmur. He was about 10 years and 1 month when he passed away. So when the king died, the princess became the queen, and the queen became the queen's mother. So that's how we come to be who we are, and this is Queen Olivia. So Queen Olivia was 17 last November, and because cats' years are two months to a year, so 6 cat years to 1 human, so thus every 2 months they gain a year, and it's now 17.2, which makes her 104. And as I said last Friday, it didn't look like we were going to make it to Monday. She's still been eating. She stopped eating Friday, but it might have just been between meals. And there was a little bit of weepiness on the wound of her face. She definitely slowed down. So she is still walking around, but she's definitely slower. But she's still eating. She sleeps on my chest under the doona. We started that a few years ago because it was quite cold. Otherwise, when she lost weight, see, she got these sneezes because the tumours on her nasal thing, the half the nose has collapsed. But she's been sneezing for about a year, so I thought she had cat flu, but it wasn't. Obviously, it didn't really come to light until Willow was sick and died. That was October. But when I look back at the films with Olivia, that's where something started to develop on her face. She was rubbing it a lot, getting bald paws from rubbing. So she's currently got bald paws on both sides. You ate your lolly, did you? Good girl. You want another lolly? Mummy, get you another lolly? Oh, Mummy's got a sore back today. Oh, I'm not doing very well with my back today. There we go. There we go. Lollies? Let me give you another lolly. She's eating her lollies. She eats dry food. She drinks lots of water. She's mostly living on soupy foods. I buy the Dine, what do you call that? The pureed Dine stuff, and there's also another Dine that's soup. The tuna and chicken one she likes more so than the other ones. It's more soupy. That's good. Want another lolly? Another lolly for your birthday? Oops. Sorry, darling. Don't want you to get up. You might have to because it can be underneath you now. Oh, it keeps rolling. Let me get this one out of your way. That's it. Put that up there. There we go. How's that? How's that, do you think? Oh. 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 Oh, my back. Oh. Too many massages last week. Did you eat them all? There's one more. There's one more here. One more there. Save it for later. You want some water? Let me give you some water. Oh! How did that end up there? That was an interesting thing. Alright, here's some water. Whoopsies. There we go. Do you want some water? No? Too early for water? You sure? You sure you don't want any water? Yeah. Good girl. Good girl. So I have noticed this weekend a slowing down of Olivia, but I suppose if you consider 104, if Nonna was here at 104, she slowed down at 90, but 104, ooh. She does have some kidney issues, but the vet reassured me the tumour of her face will kill her before her kidneys do. So there was this conversation about modifying her diet, low sodium, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, oh, well, you know, the facial tumour will kill her before the kidneys do. Too hard to change the diet when you're just trying to get them to eat anything. Oh, you are thirsty. Good girl. Is that enough? Is that enough, darling? Do you want me to move it? Yeah? Enough? Good girl. You had a lot. Well, by my standards, I thought it was a lot. Oh. Now, this is your leftovers from your puree. Did you want some of your pureed stuff? Had enough for now? Okay. Well, that's over here as well. You can have that afterwards. Alright. To your 104th birthday, beetroot juice. I made a pasta dish for you. Well, for me. You used to eat pasta, you don't anymore. She has refined her tastes in her older age. It's very rare that I make pasta these days, but I felt like some pasta on the weekend and didn't get round to it on the weekend. So Monday's the day. It's a bit like celebrating a human child's first birthday. They're up for the singing and then they've gone off to sleep. She's gone off to sleep. With her head up, head down. That's it. That's my girl. Good girl. Good girl.